Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Environment and Planning Committee meeting of George River Council. I declare the meeting open at 7 p.m. Acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live, work and meet on these lands. Apologies, there are no apologies tonight. Request to attend meeting by audio visual link. There have been no request to attend by audio visual link. Notice of live streaming of committee meeting. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute taking purposes and is also being broadcast live to the public on Council's website in accordance with Section 5 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. The recording will be made available on Council's website. Code of Meeting Practice. The order of business is shown in the agenda, which has been made available. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is open. Doors to the meeting room are to be left open unless the meeting moves into a closed confidential session, according to Section 14 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Only if the meeting moves into a closed confidential session will the public broadcasting of the meeting be suspended. Council Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of Council. Mobile phones must be turned to silent during the meeting. Disclosures of interest. Do any councillors have any interest to declare? No one? No interest to declare? Public forum. There's one speaker registered for tonight's meeting. I'd like to remind the speaker that the speaker has a 3-minute time limit. The first sound you hear indicates that you have 60 seconds remaining. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. So the first speaker is Ms. Irene Petros, speaking remotely on ENV 00324, Outcomes of Public Exhibition, Olds Park Master Plan Amendment. Please go ahead, Ms. Petros. Okay, so we'll move to the next item because 24, confirmation of minutes of the Environment and Planning Committee meeting held on 11th December 2023. Can I have a mover and a second for that item, please?
I'll second.
Moved by Councillor Lansbury, seconded by Councillor Catras. Thank you.
We need to do a division on that. We will need to do a division on that.
Okay, excuse me, we need to go around the room for that item, please.
Your vote, please, Mr. Chair.
For.
Madam Deputy Mayor. Councillor Amber Haper. For. Councillor Jamieson. For. Councillor Catras. For. Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Wayne.
For.
It's unanimous.
Okay, I declare motion carried. Thank you. Next item is committee reports. ENV 00224, Outcomes of Public Exhibition, planning proposal for 28 and 28A Carlton Crescent, Cobra Bay. Before I call for a mover and seconder, Ms. Lum, Strategic Planner, is going to give us a report on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, the purpose of this report is to advise the outcome of the public exhibition of a planning proposal that seeks to amend the Georges River LEP 2021 by amending the listing of heritage item number 1I-208 at 28A Carlton Crescent, Cobra Bay, by revising the item number or item name from House and Front Garden Bayview to Bayview House and Garden, Boat Shed, Garage and Summer House in Schedule 5 Environmental Heritage. Revising the address from 28 Carlton Crescent, Cobra Bay to 28 and 28A Carlton Crescent, Cobra Bay in Schedule 5 Environmental Heritage, and revising the property description to include both lots 21 and 22 in Section 15 of Deposited Plan 19 63 in Schedule 5 Environmental Heritage. And lastly, updating the heritage map to reflect the above changes. The plan proposal was publicly exhibited for a period exceeding 28 days from the 1st of November to the 1st of December 2023. One submission was received from the community in support of the plan proposal and heritage listing. One public authority submission from Heritage New South Wales also responded to the public notification. There are no recommended changes to the plan proposal as a result of the submissions received. The plan proposal has been updated to reflect the outcomes of the public exhibition and agency consultation. It's recommended that the planning proposal be forwarded to the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure for gazettal. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Lum. Could I call for a mover and a seconder, please?
Mr. Chair.
Move Councillor Ball, seconded by Councillor Jamieson. Are there any questions from the councillors?
I would just like to again thank the staff for their work on this report and all the work that's led up to this. It was very proactive of the staff and to really put in the heritage of that property first and try and protect that. So it's really appreciated by the community. So thank you.
Any more discussion at all? Okay, in that case, I'll put the motion and we'll go in the room.
Your vote, please, Mr. Chair.
For,
Madam Deputy Mayor.
For.
Councillor Amity Hapaha.
For.
Councillor Jamieson.
For.
Councillor Catras.
for,
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Wang.
for.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. I declare that carried. The next item is ENV 00324, Outcomes of Public Exhibition, Olds Park Master Plan Amendment.
Would you like to try the speaker again just to see if she's there? If she's speaking with us.
Sure. Hello, this is Nancy Petros.
Yes.
Okay, do you want to go with the speech?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Apologies, I don't know what's happened previously. You just keep going straight to my voicemail, but I am ready to go.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name's Irene Hatzipetros and I am the chairperson of Football St George. Today I give rise to talk against the recommendation proposed by Georges River Council officers in relation to the adoption of a perimeter fence at Olds Park Football Ground and for the following reasons. The reference by Council to Football New South Wales regulations is flawed and we share concerns with regard to the comments made by Council. The document that Council has referenced when stating that the field dimension requirements is the Football New South Wales Stadium Technical Requirements. This document is, by definition, within the document, applicable to the competitions directly administered by Football New South Wales, such as the NPL. It is not applicable to grassroots football. The document that is relevant when considering pitch dimensions is the International Football Association Board Laws of the Game. Law 1 in relation to the field of play sets the dimensions for 11-a-side football as the touchline must be longer than the goal line, length of the touchline is a minimum of 90 metres, maximum of 120 metres, length of the goal line is a minimum of 45 metres, maximum 90 metres. Further, page 20 to 21 of the International Football Association Board Laws of the Game allow member associations, and in our case, Football Australia, to modify certain aspects of the laws of the game for grassroots football. One such permissible area is the size of the field. The only directive Football Australia have made to alter the size of the field for grassroots football is for mini-roos, age grades where the playing format has less than 11 players for each side. As such, grassroots 11-a-side football can be played on any field that is within the dimensions issued within the laws of the game. By Council's admission, the dimensions of the field when fencing is erected will be within the permissible range. Council officers have indicated that putting up a fence will impact the use of the venue for javelin. Football St George then assumes that Council permit javelins to be thrown into what is an open public space. Football St George commends Council in suggesting a risk assessment in relation to the proposed fencing. However, we ask what risk mitigation council have in place when javelins are thrown into an open public park, and how that risk is considered in comparison to the risk that football is seeking to mitigate with the installation of the pitch perimeter fence. The suggestion that a fence would impose safety issues is a concern when FIFA Football Australia and Football New South Wales administer competitions within fenced playing fields every day. Should this be a concern of council, it is a matter we recommend that is addressed within the state government and other governing bodies. Football St George understands that there are many sporting field fences and other fences that council staff will manage across its jurisdiction. This would include understanding what material type is most resilient and requires the least maintenance. Considering the large number of fences council staff or contractors currently mow around, it is reasonable to assume that council or its contractors are well skilled and equipped to mow around a simple rectangular pitch perimeter fence, noting we imagine it is far more cumbersome to mow around circular pitch perimeter fences at the neighbouring AFL and cricket fields or other odd-shaped fences. We appreciate there may be a small increase to the time it takes to mow the field, which we assume is good use of time if it produces a safer environment for the community using the facility. I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to address this matter, and we humbly call on our councillors to adopt the proposed amendments to the plan of management allowing the perimeter fencing at Olds Park.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the time.
Through the chair, I do have some questions if you're about to do that.
All right. Before I call for a seconder, can I ask Michelle Fawcett, the strategic plan, to give us an overview, please?
Thank you. In June 2020, Council adopted a master plan for Olds Park fences. In 2023, Council secured a grant funding to redevelop the existing sports pavilion and public toilets for an innovative and exclusive premium sporting facility for community use. As this improvement goes beyond the works permitted under the current Olds Park master plan, an amendment to the existing master plan is required. The Olds Park Master Plan amendment was publicly exhibited from the 25th of October to the 24th of November, and a total of 14 submissions were received. Two submissions were received from key stakeholders, and the request included for a universal exclusive umpires room and the AFL clubs to provide access to the club rooms throughout the year and provide the opportunity to display their memorabilia in club rooms. And the other submission requesting to fence the perimeter of Olds Park football ground as it would reduce the risk and liability of accident potential, providing a clear boundary between the player area and their spectators. 12 general community submissions were received, including requests for that the redevelopment of the sports community facility be accessible to all community members, protection of the trees, additional car parking, maintenance and information on the Liberty Swing and upgrade playground. It is recommended that the exhibit draft master plan be amended in response to the submission to state that the redevelopment of the sports facility and public toilets amenities be inclusive to all users, and this nature of the amendment did not require the plans to be re-exhibited. In case of the speaker, the perimeter fence can be dealt with as a separate matter, as it is an operational matter, and the generic plan of management sports ground would allow the fencing to be erected. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Fawcett. Can I call for a mover and seconder on that?
I'll move the recommendation, Mr. Chair, but before I amend the recommendation, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. I have an amendment in mind.
Please go ahead. To the director. Oh, sorry. Could I get a seconder, please?
Well, if not, if I don't have a second, then it lapses and it can come back during the council meeting. I'm moving the recommendation. The amendment will be, because I need to ask the questions first. So
Yes.
I'm just going to ask some questions.
Yeah, Councillor Casey, just ask the questions.
Yeah, I'll ask the questions. First and foremost, I noticed that there are reasons for not allowing the fencing of the soccer field is because it's dangerous. Can someone tell me why it's dangerous to fence a soccer field, which needs to be fenced? Can someone please explain? And the other one is the that it's a small field, and we've just heard that amateur soccer can be played on a field which is so many times its width, etc., etc. So why would that present a problem? And the other one that I've got is that it may conflict with other sports like javelin throwing, where you're not going to be throwing javelins if you're playing soccer. So there's three-pronged questions, and then I propose an amendment.
Through you, Mr Chair, to Councillor Catras, some information has come to light between the time discussion I had with you this afternoon. The plan of management and the master plan does not need to reference the fence. The fence can go there, it can or cannot go there, does not require an amendment to the master plan, so it does not require an amendment to this resolution. The construction of the fence is an operational matter that will be then dealt with by the infrastructure and assets team. I've just finished. The infrastructure and assets team have given a commitment to Football St George and the Penshurst United Club, which can desire to have the fence. They don't need to have a fence. We don't have any other fences except for synthetic fields anywhere else within the LGA. But because of their ongoing concern regarding the safety issues around the fence, the Director of Infrastructure and Assets has agreed to undertake a risk assessment with our insurers to look at the fence, if a fence was installed, and what the safety of the players is. But whether the fence goes up or does not go up has no impact on adopting the amendment to this master plan.
Well, maybe I can move the proposal with an amendment, and the amendment is that the three organisations, which includes Penshurst West Football Club.
I think could we have a? I think we do.
Yeah, Councillor Catras, you need a second for that amendment.
Well, I still haven't finished the amendment. And the three organisations, which includes the Penshurst West Football Club, the Football St George, and what's the other one? Football New South Wales, be informed that there is no need for it to be incorporated in the master plan, as it's an operational matter and could occur at any time. That's all.
Could you just repeat? So could you just repeat those for me, please? So I've got Football St George's,
Football
St George,
Penshurst
Penshurst West United, and what was the third one?
Football St George, Penshurst West Football Club, and Football New South Wales, being informed that the construction of a fence in the location sought is an operational matter, and it's not necessary for it to be incorporated in the plan of management.
Into the master plan.
The master plan. But Mr. Andrew Spooner, or whatever,
I think it's fine at that, actually.
Okay, all right. Well, that's my amendment.
I think the director will then follow that through as required.
Can I ask you a question? Through you,
Councillor Bull.
Mr Chair. Has any response been sent to those football clubs, those organisations already in response to the letters that they have sent to council?
Through you, Mr Chair, only the acknowledgement that we've received the submissions and the advice that it would be being considered at tonight's Environment and Planning Committee.
Any further questions?
Yes,
Councillor Jamieson.
through you, Chairperson. I have a question because I know that there's a lot of issues with the fence going up, and I'm just concerned that if you write and say, hey, that it goes to operations, it's going to assume that it's been done. It's going to be okay. But there's been a lot of issues, and it's surprising because I thought Irene would have known that the how upset people were just at the synthetic having a fence, and how that would affect the people in Pensworth, the school, Pensworth West Public School, and a lot of people that use it. So is it assumed that it just goes through operations, or we're going to have a proper consultation? And that's why I'm concerned that if we send a letter saying, hey, it's an operational matter, that we really need to deal with it properly. Not part of the plan of management, I appreciate.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I may call on the director, Mr. Latter, just in relation to his process of once he's done the risk assessment, looking at the matter, will he bring that back to council in some form?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Normally with operational matters, what we would do is we would do the risk assessment as we've actually suggested. Essentially, we've been put on notice now, so the Director of Community and Culture and myself met with the football club last week. They highlighted a number of what they considered as player safety issues. We need to consider those, which is safety issues in relation to the dish drain, and we now need to consider safety issues related to the potential installation of a fence. So it wouldn't normally come back through council for an operational matter, but if council were to decide that they'd like that to come back through council, that would be a decision of council.
You could envision if you want to have this report, any following risk assessment regarding the player safety, that a further report is brought to council regarding progressing the construction of the fence. You want to, oh, right.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, do you want me to go and everyone can talk about it? So you just need someone to accept.
Mr. Chair, can I propose a further amendment?
Councillor Bull.
Just to add in item F after item E that Councillor Catras has added. Sorry.
Excuse me, councillors, we're just working out the meeting procedures. I can add to next motion. We don't need second, but I think Councillor wants another motion now.
It can be a foreshadowed or it can be an amendment to the amendment that Councillor Catras might accept. You've advised me on the process. Okay. So the item F would be that the installation of any perimeter fence would be by a future resolution of council and go through a community consultation process. Which I think is to the point that you just made, the director, that if we want it to be a resolution of council, we can include that in the motion now.
Mr. Chair, could I also just add to that? It would, yeah, if I could just add to that, if there was a decision made either way to build a fence, that would need to be incorporated into the Capital Works program, at which time it's not flagged for the future Capital Works program. So again, that would be a further decision of council to accept the Capital Works program. We'd also need to look at the resourcing of delivery as well.
Could I clarify something through the chair?
Councillor Catras.
I have here somewhere, I've read that they're prepared to actually pay for supply and installation. We have prepared a proposal, we have a kind of request. Please note, I'm not sure who it was, but that's okay, that's fine. If it's actually, if we have to consider it as a part of the Capital Works program, if they don't pay for it, well, so be.
Yes, so the staff are compiling an amendment.
Would you like me to just repeat it?
Yes, thanks.
Sorry. Do you want me to repeat it, Meryl?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the installation of any perimeter fence at Olds Park football field, should we call it? Yep, at Olds Park football field would be by a future decision of council or resolution of council, future resolution of council. Yeah, council, and go through a community consultation process.
So that means something.
If Councillor Catras is happy with that amendment, I'm happy to second that motion.
Yeah. Okay, can everyone read that amendment up on the screen? And if so, can I get a second, please? Sorry, okay. All right, is there any further discussion or questions?
Just another point of clarification. I thought I did find it. It says we have prepared a proposal outlining the details of the fencing project, including costs that will be covered by the club via grants and raised sponsorship funds. So you might keep that in mind to the director.
Okay, any further questions or discussion?
I just had one further question, and it could fall
That's
under the same category, just in relation to the amendment that the is recommended about making the facility inclusive. Was just a question around the canteen facilities and it being designed in such a way that it is multi-use, in line with the resolution of council for canteen facilities to be functional, so they can be used by multiple different sports codes at the same time. So the question is, does the plan of management or master plan, sorry, need to be amended to address that, or can it stay as is?
It can stay as is. It is also an operational matter, and council is making their sports facilities multi-use.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
It's councillor Ford. Anybody else with a question or any discussion? Right, in that case, I'll put the motion as amended. And we'll just go around the room for this one.
Your vote, please, Mr. Chair.
For?
Madam Deputy Mayor.
For.
Councillor Amby Haperhart.
For.
Councillor Jamieson.
For.
Councillor Catras.
For.
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
It's unanimous.
Okay, in that case, I declare that carried. The next item is E&V 00424, Outcomes of Public Exhibition, GRDCP 2021, Amendment 5, Subdivision, Lot Consolidation and Boundary Adjustments in Heritage Conservation Areas. Before I call for a mover and seconder, I'd like to ask Michelle Fawcett from the staff to give us an overview. Thank you.
Thank you. On the 26th of November 2021, the Housing SEP came into effect in New South Wales. The Housing SEP relating to housing for seniors and people with disability did not apply to land in the Greater Sydney Heritage Conservation Areas. The New South Wales Government placed a moratorium on seniors housing in the Heritage Conservation Areas to allow councils time to finalise any necessary policy updates prior to the expiry of the moratorium to ensure that the planning framework, including state and local controls, will deliver appropriate outcomes for senior housing. The moratorium was lifted on the 1st of January 2024, meaning that seniors housing provision of the Housing SEP will start to apply to 3 heritage conservations in our LGA, Penshurst, O'Brien's Estate and Cobra South Heritage Conservation Areas. Council prepared Amendment number 5 to the Development Control Plan to insert new guidelines relating to subdivision for each of the heritage conservation areas that would apply to any future development, as there is little guidance on the subdivision or lot consolidation in Georges River Development Control Plan. The draft amendment was publicly exhibited from the 8th of November to the 8th of December 2023. A total of 8 community submissions were received. their main concerns was the overdevelopment of medium and high density developments in the heritage conservation areas. No amendments to the draft exhibited development control plan was required in the response to the submissions. A further amendment was made not relating to the lot consolidation. There was an omission of a 2 metre in clause 6.1.2 for single dwellings front setbacks, so that the written minimum setback requirement from the secondary street boundary on the corner reflects the corresponding figure. So given that that was a minor amendment to rectify an error, it was done in the amendment number 5. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fawcett. Could I get a mover and seconder for that report, please?
I'm happy to move that, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Lansbury, a seconder, please.
I'll second it.
Councillor Catras, thank you. Are there any questions, please, or discussion? Okay, in that case, I'll put the motion. We'll go around the room here, please, Mr. Kinley.
Mr. Chair,
For.
Madam Deputy Mayor,
For.
Councillor Amby Haberhar,
For.
Councillor Jamison,
For.
Councillor Catras,
For.
Councillor Lansbury,
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
7 votes for, unanimous.
I declare that motion carried. The next item is update on the Georges River Local Strategic Planning Statement, Implementation Plan, Local Housing Strategy and Inclusive Housing Strategy. Before we call for a seconder, I'd like to ask Ms. Ho, Senior Strategic Plan, to give us an overview, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I will provide a short commentary of the ENV 005-24 update on the Georges River Local Strategic Planning Statement, Implementation Plan, Local Housing Strategy and Inclusive Housing Strategy. At its meeting on 28th of October 2019, Council adopted the Georges River Local Strategic Planning Statement and associated implementation plan. The LSPS 2040 guides land use planning addressing environmental, economic and social outcomes and the delivery of significant infrastructure for our local government area over the next 20 years. The LSPS creates a land use vision for the future that recognises the character of our suburbs. It builds on our community's social, environmental and economic values and strengths. The implementation plan nominates 111 actions Council will take over the next 20 years to achieve our desired future. These actions are assigned to responsible directorates and have been incorporated into Council delivery programs and operational plans. To monitor the Council's progress on achieving this long-term vision, its progress is to be measured and reported publicly during each Council term against a series of measures and targets nominated in each of the LSPS's 5 themes. This report provides an update on the progress against the 111 actions in the LSPS 2040 for the current Council term. Council has also prepared the Georges River Local Housing Strategy and Inclusive Housing Strategy, which were adopted by Council in August 2020. The Local Housing Strategy sets a plan to deliver housing in our LGA over the next 10 and 20 years. The strategy links our vision for housing with the actions of the South District Plan and LSPS. The implementation plan for the LHS nominates 43 actions and will take a staged approach to ensure that housing, growth and infrastructure provisions are considered together. The Inclusive Housing Strategy seeks to provide a comprehensive framework to advocate for, facilitate, provide and manage affordable housing in the Georges River LGA for the next 20 years. The delivery plan nominates 35 actions to provide and manage affordable housing in the LGA. This report provides an update on the progress against the 35 actions in the Inclusive Housing Strategy and the 43 actions in the Local Housing Strategy. The report also notes that, in accordance with the Action A36, engage the community in the review of the LSPS during each Council term of the LSPS. Council will be commencing an update to the LSPS in February 2024. A further report will be submitted to Council outlining the process and program to review the Georges River LSPS. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Ho. Can I call for a mover and seconder on that report, please? Councillor Lansbury. Councillor Abby Hayper. Thanks. Is there any discussion on that report, please, from the councillors? Councillor Lansbury.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to say that I think this particular report is very timely given the subject matter that we'll be dealing with tonight in our extraordinary meeting, and I think it's very comprehensive, and it just goes to show that our council officers have already done the work for our LGA, and hopefully we can stick with our plan so far and not have to amend them too much. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor. Anybody else with a question or any discussion? Okay, look, I had one myself. I'd like to ask the director, how will the state government's newly announced strategies, if adopted, affect the local strategic planning statement implementation plan, local housing strategy and inclusive housing strategy?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair. At this stage, I'm not sure. I think the staff and I will need to go through each of those recommendations and of each of those strategies and work out how the housing reform package will affect those. Probably at this point in time, without really unpacking what the reforms, especially the low-rise medium housing set, is that the local strategic planning statement has a clear strategy of where growth occurs. Housing reforms have sort of, I guess, bypassed that. So we may need to come back and readjust our local strategic planning statement with our response to the housing reforms. The issues around affordable housing is quite interesting as well. The SEP that came into force at the end of last year allows affordable housing with a 30% increase on height and FSR on a number of locations with the LGA relating to any residential development. The current provisions of the state government and our housing policy and our inclusive housing strategy, of course, talks about the preparation of an affordable housing contribution scheme, which we are continuing to do that as well. So I think once they're in place and as part of our discussion with you, with the review of the LSPS, we will have a look at how the recommendations of those three strategies will be affected.
Thank you, Director. Anybody else with a question? All right. In that case, I'll put the motion. If we can go around the room. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
For.
Madam Deputy Mayor.
For.
Councillor Amby Haperham.
For.
Councillor Jamieson.
For.
Councillor Catrus.
For.
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
7 votes for, unanimous.
Okay, declare motion carried. The next motion is ENV 00624 Development and Building Q2 Max report. Before we move to calling for a mover and seconder, I'd like to ask Mr. Frome, who is the Council's Managed Development Building, to give us an overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Essentially, in summary, this is the reporting period that covers October to December 2023, and the DA performance in terms of timeframes and outputs. Essentially, the high-end stats are that we had 113 applications lodged, but determined 147 applications in the period. We had 11 applications considered by the local planning panel, and 11 of those were determined, and that meant they weren't deferred, so they were finalised there and then. We didn't have any determined by the local planning panel in the quarter, but we do have 3 applications with, the state planning panel, but we do have 3 applications with the state planning panel and council at the moment that are currently being worked through. The median determination times in this period was 114 days, which was down from 118 through 20 days in 22-23 and 148 days in 21-22. The estimated value of development applications determined in this period was $49.5 million. In terms of the Development Advisory Service, pre-lodgement applications and the process in that area remain low. I would note that the duty advisory team has seen a pickup following the emergence of the proposed changes to housing policy in terms of inquiries around those sorts of changes. But in terms of actual de-escalating lodgement in that team, we are basically at around 38 when this report was prepared. awaiting submission, which is down from about 50 in the previous quarter. In other services in the unit, council share of certification remains quite low in terms of construction certificates and compliant development certificates. In terms of building information certificates, that continues to be a growth area, both with the rise of unauthorised works, but also some of the confusion and situation with respect to certification and complying development and the expansion of that has results in people getting into trouble when they don't build what they've had approved, if I can put it as bluntly that way. Nevertheless, the BIC's average days has come down from 557 in the last financial year to 140 days, which is a significant improvement, and that's come about through improved vetting of the applications, through some strong work by the staff, and having a focus on getting the matters determined and out of the council rather than having them sitting around delaying enforcement action and that sort of thing. In terms of other matters, just to mention, I first of all want to mention that in this period, it was the first time that we've, in perhaps a year, that we actually managed to finally get back to our full complement of staff. Admittedly, a lot of those are casual and agency staff, but effectively it means that we finally have the people that we need to get through some of the work. And that manifested itself in a determination number of 60 applications in December, which is the highest it's been in a couple of years for 1 month. But the other thing I have to note as well is the Department of Planning support coming in as well to assist us in terms of both the improvement of the processes that we have, but also in terms of actually getting through applications and dealing with some of those to take some of the pressure off the existing staff and free them up to deal with the messier matters that we need to provide service on. I would note that we've had indications that the Department of Planning is likely to extend that period, although I would caution that we haven't seen it in writing yet, but we have had that verbally advised to us. So noting that the Council's previous request, that is appreciated. With respect to the final matter, just a brief note on the, you would have seen a report in, I think it was around the Christmas period, around the assessment times of Georges River Council, that was reporting a certain time period. Very briefly, Council is working with the department to work out an anomaly between the data that we have and the data that they have. Essentially, we're not saying that our performance has been exceptional in the last year. We're not suggesting that at all. What we're saying is their data is not showing what our data is showing, and we're trying to get to the bottom of where the difference lies. So essentially, our data shows an average determination time over the period they're reporting of about 170 something days, which is not particularly good. Their data is showing us at about 200, I think it was 250 days or thereabouts. So there's a significant difference there. So we are working with the department staff. We've provided them a lot of data so they can go through and find out where the anomalies are, just to try to work out where that is. But ultimately, the intent of that is to make sure that we get more accurate reporting and a more accurate idea of what's actually going on in terms of council performance. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Frone. Can I call for a mover and seconder on that report, please? Councillor Councillor Bork, thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on that? No questions? Okay, in that case, I'll put it to the table, please.
Mr. Chair, your vote, please.
Full.
Madam Deputy Mayor.
Full.
Councillor Amby Haperham. Councillor Jamieson.
Full.
Councillor Catras.
Full.
Councillor Lansbury.
Full.
Councillor Wang.
Full.
7 votes for, unanimous.
Okay, thank you. I declare that motion carried. And there being no other business on the agenda, I declare this meeting closed at 7:45 p.m.